Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Welcome once again to Hang On Supi, a show powered by Scarlet and Gray Sports Radio. I'm your host, Caleb Supi Spinner, and today I'm joined by a member of the Ohio State cross country and track and field team. It's Nick Regas. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Caleb. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Distance running is a sport that I'm close with my brother who's now going to college for it. It's something I've watched and grown up with, track I competed in. I have so much respect for the long distance people, so it's an honor to have you on. Somebody who does 5K, 8K, even the 10K, three of the longest races you can do ahead of the marathon. It's impressive.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's no joke. I have like more of a basketball background, so the sport is still somewhat new to me. And you know, I get more and more respect for it every day.
It's no joke. A lot of people will joke and say it's just running in a circle for a long time, but it's more than that. It is a race, and it's a competition in every sense of the word. So let's get to, there's a lot that I want to get to here. So let's start at the beginning. What made you enter the sport of competitive running?
Yeah, so as I just mentioned, started off as more of a basketball player. It was probably my first love within sports. I grew up in Canton, Ohio, so really close to St. Vincent St. Mary, where LeBron played basketball in high school. So, you know, there's a lot of basketball culture in the area. And my freshman year of high school, I was like, oh, shoot, I don't know if I'm in shape for basketball season. So I started showing up to the cross-country workouts over the summer in order to get in good basketball shape. And showed up, realized I was very out of shape, but, you know, started running more and more, getting in better shape. And I gradually kind of fell in love with the sport and decided to run cross-country my freshman year of high school, and saw some success pretty quickly. And before I knew it, I realized I was like, oh, like this might be the sport for me. Like this might be what I should continue doing. And I'm pretty happy I made that choice.
Now you'll hear me throughout the show. I'll just refer to competitive running. That'll lump in cross country and track because both of them are different, but I figured competitive running was a good umbrella term when I'm talking about here. Once you decided to become a runner, who were some of the people who helped you make that basketball to competitive running transition?
Yeah. So my high school, Jackson High School, we had a cross-country team of roughly 200 runners, which is gigantic. So I had a huge support system of so many talented and awesome, fun people to help me make that transition and help me fall in love with the sport of running. One of those guys that I remember specifically, his name is Nate Malou. He was a great runner. He was a junior when I came in as a freshman. He went on to run at Ohio University, and he now works for the Bowerman Track Club, which is one of like the largest and most successful pro groups in the United States. So he's been a guy that like always has been involved with running. He's like a wealth of knowledge. He was one of those guys that took me under my wing. He also is like a former basketball player, so he knew exactly where I was coming from. And he just like gave me a lot of advice, you know, stay healthy, definitely don't do a long run and then go play 5-on-5 all day and get injured. So he was like a huge help. And along with just like having like such a large team and support system, it just really made the sport of running easy to transition into, and also just like a really good time having that many people around with the same goals and mindset.
Now, Bowerman Track Club, Bowerman, like the Oregon coach, right? Founder of Nike.
Exactly. Exactly.
One of my favorite runners of all time, Prefontaine. The man, to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. I believe that's the quote. I love that. Love that quote. So you referred to Jackson just there, moving into high school. You went to high school at Massillon Jackson. Mentioned they have to specify because there is another school out there named Massillon who's got a history themselves, but it's in football. One of my favorite mascots of all time. I think my microphone, so sorry on that. But one of my favorite mascots of all time, the polar bears. Absolutely love that. What were some of the things you wish people better understood about competitive running?
I think people that don't know too much about the sport, there's usually a lot of confusion about training for cross country and competitive running and track. So, if I'm training for the 5K, someone from outside of the sport might say, well, why don't you just run 5 kilometers every day and just keep getting better at it and just keep running 5 kilometers because that's what you need to practice for. I would say, like, to use an analogy in another sport, let's use like a professional basketball player. That would be like the same thing as saying, hey, why don't they just scrimmage 48 minutes of 5-on-5 every single day to get better at playing in the NBA?
Right.
So, naturally you realize like, oh, wait, that's probably not the best way to prepare. So similar to any other sport with running, you have to be working different muscles, be doing different types of training. We do lifting as well, even though it might not look like it. But, you have to be doing all sorts of different things and preparations and working on different muscle groups in order to get ready. So, one day you might have a long run, another day you might have an easy run, another day you might have a speed workout. But just running like the same thing every other day or every day won't necessarily be the greatest benefit.
And is similar to basketball, keeping your same analogy, where you have dribbling, you have shooting, you have rebounding, all these different aspects that make up the overall whole of the sport of basketball. You have different things to focus on. In track, it's easier to see this analogy play through because you have multiple different things you can do. You can do 100, 200, 800, 1600, 3200. When you get up to high school, or when you get up to college, the 5K, 10K, steeplechase, all these things. But in cross country, even, you have to know when to kick. You have to work on hill workouts to face the terrain that you're going up against. There's probably going to be lessons on coasting, on how to go down hills. So there's a lot of things that go into this that I don't think a lot of people understand or fully realize. It's not just running on a flat course, especially cross country. It's not just running on a flat course as fast as you can. There are different aspects that make up the whole when it comes to this, and those different workouts and that different plan helps make you better in each of those areas.
100%. I think you said it better than I could have, to be honest. That's so accurate.
High school running was the first jump in talent on your journey to college. There are several jumps. There's the pre-high school, which can be elementary, it can be middle school, and then to high school. And then there's high school to college, and then college, obviously, to the pros, the Olympics, the world champions, stuff like that. That's your first jump, was into the high school field. Describe the difference competing against seniors and upperclassmen as well as your fellow freshmen, rather than racing against people exclusively your age like you did before.
Yeah. So jumping into high school, everything was pretty new to me. So getting thrown in with seniors and upperclassmen was definitely an interesting experience. My freshman year, I found some early success, like I said, but I certainly wasn't spectacular or anything like that. Again, it was like my first year running. But any like opportunity I got to go out and race against seniors and beat them, that gave me like a lot of confidence. And I definitely had my eyes opened to my potential in the sport. So I really liked the challenge of getting to race against older runners. And, that's continued throughout my process, even into college. But I guess going into my senior year, now I'm going to be one of those older guys that all the freshmen want to be. So, full circle moment there.
And you just touched on it there. Similar in high school, you race against the older guys, but you also get to learn from the older guys. Who were some of the older guys at Jackson who kind of took you under their wing and helped you there? I'm going to ask you the same question for Ohio State, but it's important because now that you're going to be filling into that role of the senior leader, it's important to look back on who some of those were for you.
Yeah. Jackson, definitely Nate, who I mentioned earlier. There were also just so many guys that I had just like throughout the years because we had such a large team. A couple other guys would be like Sam Craig, who went and ran at Stetson University in Florida. I had just so many great friends. I had a teammate, Evan Akers, who came to Ohio State with me. Just a lot of great guys that just built up an awesome support system for me at Jackson. And also my coaches. It'd be a shame for me to not mention the awesome coaches that I had at Jackson as well.
All 4 years of high school, you lettered at Massillon Jackson. Even as a freshman, how did you assert yourself on the team to eventually growing up your reputation of being a standout runner at the school?
I think what helped me succeed was whenever I've noticed like I came into a new group of runners, I always try to go and hang with the top guys. And it may not always be the best strategy because sometimes I crash and burn, and I'll do it in races. I'll try to go out with the top guys, and sometimes it might work, sometimes it might not. But I apply the same thing to like when I come on to a team. So when I came into Jackson, I didn't come in as the best runners when I just started running, but those top guys that were running, I would go and try to put myself in their workouts, try to hang with them for as long as I could and for as many reps as I could. And, that's a mentality that I've brought into Ohio State as well, where like coming in as a freshman, I've got national qualifiers and Big Ten champions around me. And still, like, I would just try to put myself with them as much as possible. And I think I'm finally like starting to see some of those benefits now.
Now, we mentioned preseason for cross country occurs during the summer. Same with football and the other fall sports that go on. But we talked about all the different workouts that you have, the long runs that you have to do, the sprint workouts, the hills, all that fun stuff. That can really put a toll on someone's body. And you touched on it with the, why can't you just run, 5 kilometers each day until you get really good at it? It's because it puts such a stress on your body, not only running that distance, but also running in those temperatures. Recovery is very important in this aspect. What are some of the things you used to do after a tough workout during the summer to cool off and be ready for the next day's workout?
I think one of the big things in the summer especially is just making sure you're staying hydrated as much as you can, getting your electrolytes. And I mean, that follows throughout the year. Same thing with sleep, making sure you're letting your body recover. A lot of people underestimate how important getting as much sleep as you possibly can is for competitive running, because that's when you're repairing your muscle fibers, getting the recovery to be able to go and put in the training the very next day. So that was something I always focused on and still focus on to this day. And also I think it's going to sound almost counterintuitive, but like making sure that like especially in the summer that you're serious about training, but also enjoying the off season and just living your life a little bit, because if you're too stressed out about training, your body will respond to that. So you got to make sure that you're staying relaxed, just enjoying life in general, because you can't be going 100% 24/7 in the sport of competitive running, or your body's just going to give out on you. So you got to make sure that you're trying to find that balance, especially in the summer.
Another aspect of recovering, especially with running, is making sure your muscles are loose, and that can take the form of either stretching or rolling out, Are you more of a stretcher or are you a roller?
Actually, can I step off screen for something and bring something over real quick?
Absolutely.
I guess the people listening won't be able to see it, but
I'm a very good describer. I'll describe it to them.
So I've got this thing here. I'll leave out like a brand name to avoid any like name and image likeness rules or whatever, but it's like a massage gun is what it's called.
Yeah.
This thing. Yeah, it's awesome. So like basically it'll just like start digging into your muscles, and like I'm not sure even how to describe this. You said you're good at describing things, so I'll let you take
It's essentially like a drill. It's essentially a drill with a big pulsing tip on the end that you'll put around like your chest or your legs and stuff like that, and it's essentially what a roller does, but it does it more constantly, right? It's a more constant repetition. But I mean, stretching, rolling, massage gunning, if that's a verb that we can use there, is all to get the knots out of the leg. So really, whatever way you do it is game. It'll all do the same thing.
100%. Yep. So yeah, it is pretty similar to rolling, but just a little more advanced. But I love it.
As your high school career advanced, you added 2 state qualifications to your resume and set the school record in the 1600. I have to ask because I didn't find it anywhere. What was your time for that record?
It was 419 point something. I forget. So something around there.
For those of you who don't know a lot about the 1600, that's fast. That is fast.
Thank you. Thank you.
How did these two accolades, the state qualifications and the record, how did they attract the attention of big programs as you started your college hunt?
Yeah, so I set that record my senior year of high school, that track season. And before that, I actually was not planning on running in college. It wasn't really part of my grand plan for life. But I started to see a lot of success that track season. I set that record, and I was already going to go to Ohio State just because it's an awesome school and I grew up a Buckeyes fan all my life. But then when I started to have those accolades, I was able to get in touch with the coaches, and it became a possibility. And how could I pass up on an opportunity to compete for the Ohio State University? That's a once in a lifetime experience. And it's an experience that not many people get to have. And I'm so happy I decided to do it because it's connected me to so many awesome people, and it just blessed me with a ton of amazing experiences. But yeah, no, like beforehand, I got some attention from some mid majors and a lot of D2 programs. But once I finally started to see a lot of improvement and development during that final senior track season, that was what kind of enabled me to walk on to Ohio State and start talking to the coaches there.
We talked a couple episodes back about the philosophy that surrounds running when you're getting recruited. Is if you break your leg the first minute you're on campus, do you still want to go to the school? Is this still a place where you'll still be happy learning if you're not able to run? It sounds like you did that in reverse. This was a school that you wanted to go to and then just happened to get the chance to run at.
Yep. And it's made for an awesome experience because a lot of athletes, they'll room with other athletes their freshman year, and they'll have like a very student athlete experience. And I've had like an awesome opportunity where I have always, in my dorm rooms at least, I always was with non-staff. So I kind of got like the normal like college kid experience and also got the student athlete experience at the same time, which was really cool for me. I've had an awesome time at Ohio State so far.
The best of both worlds, if you will, in this case. And the last thing before we get into our Supi speed round here, when you decided to walk on at Ohio State, was it just for cross country? Was it just for track, or was it for both? Because we know you do both now, but was it always that way?
It was for all three, cross country, indoor track, and outdoor track.
Right, indoor too. I forgot that.
I think we'll kind of like, I remember we're going to kind of get into that a little bit later, but I actually just competed in my junior year for the first time in outdoor track. So I initially was just cross country. There's kind of like a development process because the level of competition in the Big Ten is so high. You have to make sure that you're ready to compete before you're thrown out there with the Wolves. So, at Ohio State, I've started in cross country, and now I'm starting to make my way into the track and field competitive landscape.
And you're right. On the other side of Supi Speed Round, we'll talk about your career at Ohio State, why you decided to not run your freshman year of track, and we'll get more into that. But first, we'll have to do Supi's Speed Round. Now, for people who are still new to this segment, we've done it for a couple weeks now, so we've really gotten a chance to see some of these answers from these athletes. This is a take on the 30 for 30, the 30 seconds and 30 questions, but it's not, there's no pressure to this. I'm not keeping a leaderboard of the questions that I'll be asking. It's not anything other than a get to know you segment. We'll give you 45 seconds. A lot of these I like to think are a little more thought provoking, which is why we gave you an extra bit of time. So if you're ready, I will set my phone here and we will get started. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All righty. Your time starts in 3, 2, 1. If you could be any animal, what would you choose?
Tiger.
Name the strangest thing you've ever eaten.
Oh gosh. Oyster.
Are you a night owl or an early riser?
Early riser.
Best place to get ice cream. Not that a runner would know, but where is the best place to get ice cream?
Graders.
Name the worst place you can get stuck.
Traffic.
Finish this sentence. When I dance, I look like blank.
The inflatable people in front of like car sales.
The tube men.
Yeah.
What would you name your yacht?
That's a really tough one. That's throwing me off. El Diablo.
And then where would you go if you had a time machine?
Roaring 20s.
Okay. All right. I like that pick. El Diablo for the yacht. Is there a reason behind that?
I'm realizing now, like, that's like a really weird name for a yacht. I just rewatched Ricky Bobby. And so in Ricky Bobby, it's Magic Man and El Diablo. And so I was just like, El Diablo sounds kind of cool. I'll say that.
You sure you don't want to name it? You don't want to have two and name it one Walker and the other Texas Ranger?
That would be way better. You're more creative than I am.
Or Shake and Bake. You could have both of those as well.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, I love that movie. I'm very close with it. That and Step Brothers, I think, are when Will Ferrell is at his best. Oh,
they're classics for sure.
I love the prayer, the family table scene with the praying. It's hilarious. And he thanks Powerade. Grandpa,
I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew.
I'm gonna come at you like a spider monkey. That's comedy gold. It's comedy gold. That I forgot to add Anchorman. I'll add Anchorman to ones where Will Ferrell is at his best. This is just fantastic movies. So let's get back on track here to our main conversation. Speaking once again about the jumping competition, and if you're wondering where those come from, we'll talk about it 2 weeks when we have Adam Reitinger on the show, who's a thrower. I actually competed against him in high school. We went to the same invitationals every once in a while. But in shot, or in shot put especially, in discus too, the shot moves up. It starts in middle school, then it gains 4 pounds in high school, and then 4 more in college. So I kind of broke it down the same way. The pre-high school to high school to college. And then, of course, with running, though, and throwing, there's the Olympics. But facing that other jump from high school now to college this time, what were some of the challenges you faced making that jump, and who were some of the people who helped bridge that gap for you?
So just like you mentioned with the shot put, where it gets a little bit heavier, distance races in college get a little bit longer. So in high school, I mainly focused on the 1600. Now my main event is the 3,000 meter steeplechase and also like the 5K. So again, some longer events and some new things that I get to work with. The steeplechase is 7 laps around the track, 7.5 usually, with 4 barriers that you need to jump over each lap, and then also a water hazard that you need to jump and clear each lap. So it's definitely some new obstacles that I've had to take on and some longer distances. But like you asked, there's also been great people to train with and people that have been able to mentor me since I've been here. One of those people was Luke Landis, who was a senior when I was a freshman, and he stayed for a 5th year when I was a sophomore. And he qualified to the NCAA National Championships in the 5K. So really smart guy, really talented runner, and he's been able to give me a lot of wisdom and help kind of understand what it takes to succeed at the Big Ten level of competition. And actually, I just moved out to Boulder, Colorado, and he lives in Denver. So we've spent like the past 2 weeks together already. So he's still someone that I like stay very close with and keep in touch with. And so he still helps me a lot, and he's going to help me train this summer.
Now, a quick question about the steeplechase when we get through here. I've seen people both clear it kind of like a hurdle, not really as close as you would clear a hurdle, but I've also seen people who step up on it and go over. Is there a reason why you do one or the other, or is it just as a race goes, too tired to clear it, let's step up on it and jump?
what you just mentioned certainly can be one of the factors. I think also it just kind of comes with practice. The more and more like you do the event and practice it, you're able to clear more and more hurdles. Stepping on it will definitely make sure you aren't going to fall or clip the hurdle. But it does take a little bit more energy and it slows you down. So my first time running it, I probably stepped on like a third of the hurdles, and that definitely slowed me down, but it gave me a little bit of comfort in the sense that like, hey, I'm not gonna fall on my face and get really embarrassed. But as I've gone, like I clear each hurdle. I try not to step on any except for the water barrier, which you need to step on. So I think it just kind of comes with like practice. And then there's some people that'll just always tap. Like I know like some of the Kenyans, like that's their strategy sometimes. And they're just such good runners that they will be able to do that and still win races, which is crazy.
I think it's just more that they don't want to try to hurdle it, clip it, and then fall face first into the water. And then you're dragging that wet uniform the whole time. Although that would be a little bit funny to see happen, unless you're the guy who's falling in the water. Then of course, no, you don't want to happen there. But
I haven't fell in the water yet, but if I did and had to keep on running, that would just be a miserable experience. It would not be fun.
It's gotta be, especially early in the race when you're carrying that wet uniform for the remaining 6 laps that you've got to go, or 6 or 5. That would be tough.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure during your freshman year, as you're beginning to bond with your team, the way I've seen with running is that it's more of a community rather than, we're all competitors against each other. The competition is more friendly of we're going to push each other to be better. So I'm sure in that sense, you started to develop some rivals or some people that you knew the second that you're going to say, let's just say there's somebody who you're running against at Michigan and Wisconsin, who as soon as they're on the schedule or at the invite, you're going to get a run for your money and they're going to get the best out of you. Who are some of those people?
Actually, who I would say is, I would just say for the steeplechase specifically, because that's kind of been my focus recently. The whole Michigan team as a whole, they're guys that they put in the steeplechase. They have one of the best event squads in the steeple in the nation. So whenever I was in a race this past spring and I saw that there was a Michigan guy in the race, or Michigan guys, because they were constantly loading up that event, I knew it was going to be a really competitive race. I knew it would go out honest with an honest pace. So that was always like something really exciting to have a chance to go up some of those guys, especially because their group is one of the best in the nation. If not, they might be the top group in the nation, them or BYU. So that was always really exciting for me to see that I would have some of those guys in my races this past spring.
Now, we've been talking about the steeplechase, which is an event for outdoor track, which of course you run now. But in your freshman year, you didn't compete in outdoor or indoor track. You told me off air that was essentially to redshirt that year because you didn't think you were ready for Big Ten, the Big Ten level of competition. Why did you think you weren't ready for that? And then how did you get ready for that going into your future years?
Yeah. So in my earlier years at Ohio State, I came in as a walk-on and like to give some sense of like the range of where I was at. I came in as a 9:30 guy in the 3,200. It's approximately 2 miles. And most of the competitors in the Big Ten come in around 9 minutes to 9:10 in the 3,200. So there was definitely a bridge I needed to gap. I just really wasn't, if I would have been thrown out there in those track races my freshman season, I probably would have been getting dropped and left behind. So it's like almost like the same sense where like you don't want to throw a rookie quarterback into stardom in his first year in the NFL. They kind of have to adapt to that new level of competition. And so that's really what I've been trying to do since I've gotten to Ohio State, is really just build myself up, get stronger, get faster, build up my endurance, and get myself to the point where I actually can go out and compete with the top runners in the nation. And so, I finally got to that point, and what I needed to do really was just get very serious about the sport, very serious about my training, and do all the little things like sleeping right, eating right, and giving my all in practice every day. And those little things have added up. And now that I had my junior season, I finally got to the point where, I could be thrown out with the Wolves, thrown out with the best runners in the country and be competitive. And I'm happy I made that decision to wait until I was ready, or I think I would have been discouraged very quickly.
Now, you talked in the last half of that question about growth, or that answer, excuse me, about growth and how it's kind of improved as you went along. Speaking of your entire career of Ohio State, how have you seen growth both with you as an athlete, with you as a competitor, and I guess throwing in a third with your times?
Yeah. So as an athlete and competitor, I think mentally, I've seen a lot of growth. I've become much more serious about the sport as I've gone on. I've realized how important the little things are into creating success, because it's almost like background factors that you don't always think of, like getting your proper sleep every night. That adds up so much, and that plays into training so much. Following your coach's instructions, so important. And so those little things have definitely helped me grow as an athlete, and also my competitive edge, competing against people and having confidence that, when you go out into a race, even if the person next to you is an All-American, that's still another human. They're still going to be hurting as much as you are in this race. So you shouldn't be scared to go up and compete against them. So from that mental standpoint, I feel like I've grown a lot. With my times, I've seen so much improvement at Ohio State. I came in with a 5K time of 15:56. I've lowered that down to a 14:36 this past season, and that wasn't even my primary focus. I felt like I still have a ton of potential there in the 5K to get to the low 14s and hopefully sneaking under 14 minutes. And then my steeplechase, I went 8:59, so I broke the 9-minute barrier there, and that time, to give a relative place, it was 10th in the Big Ten. So I was just off of scoring, which stings a little bit, because I was really happy with my improvement with the time, but I really wanted to be in that top 8 to score in the conference. But looking at it, it would score in nearly every conference in the NCAA. It would score in the Pac-12, Big 12, SEC. So it's definitely given me a lot of confidence that I'm now to the point where I can compete with the best of the best. And it's given me a ton of confidence going into this next year with cross country and track and field. So I'm so happy with the development I've seen at Ohio State, and I owe a lot to the coaches here and my teammates and other support systems.
I can tell you looked at the outline I sent you for the show, because you led right into my final question. Speaking specifically, I know one of them is going to be scoring in the Big Ten, getting up past that top 10 mark. But what are some of the other goals you have for your senior season?
The first would be just general team improvement. And actually, I want to even backtrack a little bit and give a quick shout out to all of my teammates from this past track season who have just been, I talked about my own growth and my own improvements that I've seen, but my teammates as well. Everyone who, I have guys that came in as 15:40 runners that are now running 14:40 in the 5K. So many of my teammates are making similar jumps, and it's made me so excited about what we can do, and hopefully finishing in the top half of the conference for cross country as a team. I'd like personally to finish top 30 for cross country. Looking to track, like you mentioned, definitely want to be scoring in the steeplechase. My goal there is to be top 3 in the conference and hopefully qualify to nationals from there. So I have some really lofty goals for myself. Thankfully, this summer, I'm going to be out in Colorado, like I mentioned, doing some altitude training with another teammate, Jack Good. So we're going to be giving it our 100% all summer, running with some awesome runners, because basically Boulder is almost the running mecca. Every great NCAA runner comes out to Boulder for the summer, and that's where everybody trains. So we're going to have some awesome people to train with. We're going to be training with the best of the best. and we're really excited to see how that pays off come next year.
Champions are made in the off season, as the old saying goes, and it sounds like you and your teammates are ready to make that happen and bring that adage back to Ohio State in the fall and the spring, for that matter.
Totally. We're going to keep it going year round.
Nick, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Good luck in Colorado, and I look forward to staying in touch with you and following your progress this season.
Thank you so much, Caleb. It's been really fun. Thank you.
Make sure you're tuning in to Hang On Supi. The podcast version of the weekly episode releases on Wednesdays on the scarletandgraysportsradio.com and the SGSR SoundCloud channel, and the video version, for those of you who like to watch instead of listen, will release on IGTV on our Instagram page, Hang On Supi, and on our YouTube channel on Fridays. Both of those will release around 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. There's always something to keep you involved and entertained on Hang On Supi. Also, make sure you're joining our Hang On Supi Amazon card giveaway, following this channel on our Instagram page, Hang On Supi. Once we get to 800 followers, we'll be giving away 3 $50 Amazon gift cards to help with that online shopping that we all love so much. So make sure you're going following the channel so we can get to that number and start giving those away. They are burning a hole in my pocket. I was not lying about that a couple episodes ago. Until next week, I'm Caleb Spinner. That's the show. I'm out of here.